Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Colony. So to me, this season so far, like with this episode, just kind of the way it began, I was like, oh, okay, like it seems like the Red Hats are recruiting. They even had that guy having a conversation and being like, yo, they're kind of recruiting anybody because a lot of their numbers have been, slightly lowered because of, just everything that's happened with the resistance, just everything that's going on. I mean, I guess it's more so than anything, it's like they're trying to increase their numbers so they don't ever have to worry about a situation of resistance. It might not be a situation where it's like, oh, all the resistance has whittled down all of our people necessarily. I'm not sure. And even had that guy being like, okay, I joined because he's like, yeah, I need the extra rations and stuff like that. The whole place, like it's this whole Red Hat recruitment place blew up. Resistance members came out of the wazoo and just start mowing people down. So it does seem like, I mean, since there are a lot, because like because the only sales we ever got to really see were Broussard, as well as those other three that we met last season that he kind of left with, in the season finale. So they're the only ones, I mean, not unless there's more to those three, there was other, like, more to that sale, because Broussard's the only one left of his sale, because everyone else is dead. So I don't know if that's a case where it's like, these are kind of like they've built up subsequently since then, because it has been a little while since season one's finale. It seems like it's only been like it seems like it might have been like a week or so. Like it hasn't been an extremely long time, but it has been a little bit of time. So in that short amount of time, they've probably beefed up how many people joined them, because I mean, it's sad on many different parts. Like, all those people died. It's like, yeah, you collaborate, you die and kill them. It's like, those different people collaborate for different things. It's actually something Katie ends up bringing up in the episode. She's like, she could never imagine why anyone would be so quick to collaborate without putting up a fight for what they believe in and everything. But it's like, everyone has different reasons for doing what they're doing. It's like, for them, it's like, collaborate is not because they 100% believe in a cause. It's because, it's a means to an end to help their family. And like Will's case, it was in a situation, either he helped out or his family gets shipped to the farm. Plus, it meant getting access to a way to find out where Charlie was. So there's that. But it was just kind of sad, especially because like the last person to die was a guy who was like, oh, I'm trying to do this to get more rations. So on the other side of things, we're kind of working through different days of the episode. There was a Bram situation, which I thought was kind of interesting. He ended up getting beat up and got his shoes taken. And I was just kind of like, man, that's such a... I mean, I guess because it's like they're trying to punk him, because it's like, oh yeah, he's weak, fresh meat, so might as well beat him up. And then the girl that tried like helping him out and everything, that's nice to him and everything, it's like, oh, it's got to be that guy. He took your shoes. Like, I know who took them. Like, you can't let them walk all over you, because if they walk all over you, you're basically, they're like sharks just waiting for the slightest sign of blood to kind of strike. Bram confronts the dude. The dude immediately kicks his ass. Bram fights back a little bit. And the guy there, I think his name's Jenkins, just stands by and just watches it happen. And then Snyder shows up, zaps the dude. At first I was like, oh man, good Snyder. Like, Snyder's looking out for Bram because Bram is, Will's son and everything. I mean, granted, he didn't remember that till later on. He was like, oh yeah, I know you're Will's other son. I can't. I'm blinking at him. He's like, Bram. He's like, oh yeah, like Jekyll and Hyde. Like the dude who wrote Jekyll and Hyde. He's like, Dracula. He's like, and then you see that look on Snyder's face, like, yeah, you got that smart ass mouth like your dad. Obviously, he didn't say that, but that was alluding to like the fact is like neither one of you respect the Thor. You kind of say what you want to, just as like you're coming into my office and everything. So, but it seems like Snyder kind of saw through everything. He's like, the guards here are idiots. Snyder might not be like the smartest person, but he's pretty smart. He picks up on things really quickly. He's like, this whole fighting thing was a ploy. Like the fights, even the fight that Bram was part of, even getting his shoes stolen and everything, was meant to be a distraction. The girl used him, but basically they've been stealing stuff, and essentially Snyder's there to kind of fix that situation. If he can fix the situation there at that camp, he can rise back in the ranks. I mean, he might not be as powerful as he was before, but at least it'll kind of be a step above. And he's basically telling Bram, is like, collaborate with me, essentially be my eyes and ears, help me find out who's stealing stuff, and I will help you get out of here. Remember, I helped your dad with the transit pass situation, so I keep my promises, essentially. So, which at the same time, it's like, it's hard to say whether you can trust Snyder or not, because who's to say Snyder didn't do that only because he was at the edge of at the end of the corner, and he's like, well, you've done right by me, you protected me and everything, so this is the least I can do. It's like Snyder's had moments of like, there is a good person in there. Like we've seen, Like I brought up last time, because I previously forgot to bring it up in the first episode, but I brought it up last time, the whole situation with his ex-wife and his daughter. Obviously, that's a kind of a gray situation, because it's like he wants to protect anyone. It was just, I mean, granted, he could have left his daughter with his wife or something like that, but it was just kind of, I don't know. It seemed like more so than anything, obviously he cares more for his daughter than he does his ex-wife, but you could also look at it as a power play of being like, I've got our daughter, so you never get access to her again. You're kind of on your own. Like I said, we still don't 100% know where the whole status of his ex-wife, whether she died, whether she's just in a different colony, whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, it's really hard to say with Snyder where he can really be trusted or not, because he's always got an angle up his sleeve, especially because he's the type of dude that's like, it's a situation where it's like, once you've had power and you had to give it up, Snyder seems like one of those people. It's like, now that once he's tasted power, he's never going to give it up again, because he was kind of a mild-mannered dude, but now it's like, nah, I'm gonna rise back to the top and get back the power I got. It makes you wonder, will he try and take Nolan, Adrian Pastar's characters, I don't know why I didn't say that. I don't know. I guess in my mind it's always cool. It's like Nathan from Heroes, and also Talbot from Agents. It's always weird balancing, because I saw him in Agents popping up more in Agents. I was like, oh, maybe he's not going to. Oh, and then he starts popping up in this show too. So, in this season too. So I always get trippy when I see people in two different shows. Like I said, production schedules and all that, but still, it's a thing. But nevertheless. It makes you wonder, will he kind of try and take back his position? I'm surprised we haven't seen Helena. I said Helena, but Helena. Like we only saw her obviously in that flashback in the first episode. I would think that she was going to be a big part of this season. Kind of they established her. She's kind of pretty big, but I guess it's like, because more so than anything, it's not necessarily a worldwide thing. It's something interesting, because Colony obviously focuses on one specific family. Obviously you probably get little tidbits here and there about what's outside of the colony, but not that much. It's not worldwide. Maybe eventually they'll kind of spread past that, but the focus of it is one specific colony. It's kind of what the point is. So obviously you have the outside situation with the visitors and stuff, the host and everything, but here on Earth, it's just that little corner of Earth being the colony. So I'm just curious to see how that works out for him, especially because Bram, like, he trusted that girl and then finds out, like, she was the one that set him up. It's like, oh yeah, you're trying to steal stuff. And he's like, so what are you trying to steal? Let me know. And she won't say anything. So now Bram's in a situation like, do I betray them or not? It's like, yeah, she was nice to me and everything. She's kind of the only friend I had. But then it's like, she backstabbed me. She basically sent me to get my ass kicked so that she could do something. She used me. So it's like, hey, why not pay the favor back? And it's like, I don't know. Because a big part of this episode is also belief. Because that was a big thing with Katie, like her story arc in this episode. It's like, the whole, I love how much disdain she has for Lindsay, and just like, you make me sick, Lindsay. Stop teaching my daughter this, the greatest day, stuff, thinking that, what's happening here is such a fantastic thing. And then Lindsay's just up there giving advice, being like, oh my God, like, what's wrong with you and Maddie? You should take time to listen to big sis, your other sister Maddie, essentially what she was saying. It was just like, especially with her new position and everything, being part of the greatest day. And then just like Katie's like, yeah, I'll take that under advisement. That's kind of another thing too. Like, there's certain characters I want to know more about. I wouldn't mind getting a little peek at Lindsay's past, finding out. I don't know, like, Lindsay's almost got that creepy element to her, because she seems like, obviously you have that religious element, but it's almost more cultish than it is religious, especially the way she is. She's so happy and preppy. It's like, there's no one else in this show like that. Obviously other people are happy for their own different circumstances, but it's like, she's a little too happy. So it's like, does she actually believe what she's preaching? Which, I mean, it seems that's the case. So that's why I'm kind of like, is she like, to me, it seems like Lindsay might be on the level of a fanatic that we just haven't seen it. Like, she might be a fanatic and working, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. Like, she's a little too preppy, in my opinion. Like, she's too, like, gung-ho. And maybe that's just me being very pessimistic, and I'm just like, you are just too damn happy all the time. You've never seen her, like, down or anything. So that's why I'm curious what that's all about. But a conversation came up with Katie, basically, talking to Gracie, because it also seems like she goes to religious meetings, but obviously it's kind of a low-key thing, because obviously, like, you get found out that you're like, reading about other different religions, reading other Bibles, whether it's like the Quran or the Bible or, different things from different religions and stuff like that. Because they were having a conversation of like, how similar certain religions are and everything, that basically one day there's going to be a great thing that comes that humanity as a whole will have to overcome. And it's just kind of interesting that like Katie's like, okay, I'm gonna lay this out for Gracie. It's like, here, you can read these and stuff like that. She even says like, oh yeah, but if Lindsay finds out, she'd be mad. It's like, for one, I was almost like, who cares? Lindsay's not your mom. But at the end of the day, like Katie didn't force it on her. Like Katie, obviously she has her own problems with the whole like the greatest day religion. Essentially, she has her problems with it because it's like, her mindset of being part of the resistance and everything. Like she just, she's not going to be one of the people to glorify what's happening. But essentially what she ends up showing her different books, different religions, and like reading her tales from them and everything. And Gracie's pretty smart because she's like, you don't really believe in that, like the greatest day, do you, Mom? You don't like it. And she's like, no, I don't. It's just because for Gracie in her mind, she's like, she doesn't really know what she believes. She likes what she's heard about both things, but it's a situation where it's like she doesn't want her mom left behind. Like, because she's like, oh, if you don't believe in it, then you get left behind. But Katie's like, it's not wrong to believe in other stuff. Like, yes, I'm not really big into this, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to find your own choices. So, like, she would prefer if Gracie didn't follow that, but it's like at the end of the day, she's like, you've got your own mind. You can pick whatever side you choose, essentially. Don't let anyone decide anything for you. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Lindsay doesn't know what she's doing. Like, everyone's confused in this whole situation. It's just like, she's kind of like, no one has 100% of the answers. The only one that can make up the answers for like, what you believe in is you. Don't let anyone else take that away from you. Follow your heart, essentially. So, because the storyline obviously connects with the whole Jennifer situation. Jennifer's coming back because she's like, yo, her boss is coming down hard on her. Like, yo, you got to give me something on Broussard because my boss is obviously bringing in someone to replace me. And it's like, who knows where she'll end up if she gets replaced and everything, because she's kind of holding down the fort till Will comes back. So she's kind of chief in charge. But he's kind of bringing down a hammer. Obviously, you have Katie bringing up the whole B thing about having leaked information from there. Jennifer brings that back. Obviously, they find it, but then the boss is kind of like, tell me about your informant. And she's like, I can't do that. I got things on the wraps. He's like, whatever the case may be, give me some stuff on Broussard or you're done. Like, you might have, you might have got lucky on this situation, whatever the case may be, bring me some on Broussard or you're going. Now, Jennifer's like, dude, you have to help me. But Katie's like, I can't help you. I can't get back in touch with Broussard. It's not that simple. She's like, but what I can do is I can turn myself in. And Jennifer's like, wait, what? What are you doing? She's like, oh, you're trying to make fun of me? You think I can't handle myself in this situation? She's like, I'm not saying that. She's like, I'm tired of everything, like this double life, everything kind of a noose around her neck always because of the mistakes that she's made. Because even Jennifer brings it up. Do you ever think about the fact is of a lot of people are dead because of her? There are a lot of people, not even just on the just citizen front. There's people on the resistance side and the collaborators. There's people all over the place that have died because of what they did. Because remember what happened at the end of the in the season finale, like them taking that host and everything, those drones went around, like there was just like destruction around the city. So there's a lot of people that died in that. But just, of course, like people she considered her friends, like Rachel, for example, died because of just how things played out, because she lied, manipulated Will, and things played out and she got found out. So, for example, Phyllis and her husband got killed because of that whole situation. So it's like, obviously Jennifer is a little mad about that, but then Katie's like, I will turn myself in. She's like, I want to make up for all the things I've ever done. She's like, the fact is that she would give anything. Because once again, I brought up earlier the conversation about like, why would people collaborate? But now in this moment, she's like, if I knew it could get me back to my family, have everyone back, my entire family together again in our old house, I would collaborate in an instant. So she's at the end of it, she's like, Jennifer, do whatever you have to do. Jennifer's like, I don't have much choice. Legitimately, I was scared though. Like legitimately in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't tell me Katie's going to make some mistake, like killing her or something as a means of like getting rid of this whole situation, which would only cause her more problems, because Jennifer is the only reason why Katie hasn't been caught yet, because it's like all the stuff is laid out there, and just like, Phyllis came to the conclusion it's like this new guy's probably not stupid, and then the people they're bringing in are like high level intelligence agencies, like the CIA, for example. So it's like obviously they find out too. So like Jennifer's like, we're running out of time, and it's just like she's like, do what you have to do, and it's like, oh man. And so, before, another thing that came up too is kind of a minor part of this story was like the fact is Maddie is kind of enjoying her new position. She's like, oh, this new place could be like a new church. It's a better locationed in a church. We can get a lot more people here. We can open up more religious places. So that way, it could help gain our influence, like increase our influence. And Nolan's all for it and everything. It's like, such a great idea. It's like, she's really stepping into her new position and everything. And really like, it's a little worrying because it's like, man, she's coming to that so easy. Like I said, it's a situation where it's like I feel like Maddie's willing to do whatever it takes because it's like she can't jeopardize her position because she needs to look out for Hudson. And, obviously it seems like even he takes priority over the rest of her family. But at the same time, it's kind of a situation, obviously, with her and Katie being mad at each other. Obviously, they squashed that beef a little bit because, Katie was like, yeah, if anything ever happens to me, I'm in a little bit of trouble. If anything ever happens to me, take care of, like, Gracie for me. She's like, what kind of trouble? It's like, like it seems like she's still, Maddie's still in the dark. It would make you wonder what would Maddie do if she found out that Katie did work for the Resistance. Would she tell Nolan? Would she tell Nolan to like try and keep it low key or try? I mean, because for one, finding out that Katie would be part of Resistance would put her position as well as Nolan's position in danger. So it probably put them even more at odds. Probably why Katie kind of omitted that detail. But it kind of seems like they are slowly kind of getting back together, like mending the relationship. And so kind of trailing that, because I'm obviously going to bring everything together. But at the other side of things, we had like, Will, Devin, and Charlie leaving because he killed Solomon and everything. And Devin brought up the point I brought up last time. It's like, Solomon had a lot of business partners. They find out that you're the one who killed him, they're going to rain hell on his plate. They're going to be tearing every place apart trying to find you. So it's like, we got to get out of here. But how are we going to do that without a transit pass? Which brings up a good question. Who the hell has a transit pass? It's got to be someone we're going to run into later on in the season, because the fact that Solomon didn't have it on him must admit he already traded it to somebody else. But nevertheless, that's going to play a pretty big story element part, I'm sure. Not unless it might get in the wrong hands. Maybe there'll be a Resistance member outside of the colony who finds his way in because of the transit pass. But nevertheless, they kind of have a guy lead them to the wall, because basically the plan is to climb the wall. Like it's a specific place that because there's a certain place in the mountains that because of the elevation and everything, the wall is a little lower, comparative because of, the elevation on the land. So there's less wall to crawl. So basically he has a drone that ties a rope and it's like they climb up. But really quickly, because I got it right there on my mind, I'm sure that whole situation with like, killing Solomon, that's not over. Because the kids were there. They know who killed Solomon. They know that Will did. So definitely that's going to come back to bite him in the ass, especially with this whole transit pass situation. Like, Will's inside a colony, don't worry, boop boop, get in and track him down just because like, you killed Solomon type of situation. So I mean, I don't know, like I doubt we're done with Santa Monica. There's a lot more to it, but nevertheless, I was looking at that. It's like was it 5 people all together climbing? It's Will, Devin, Charlie, and like 2 extra people. And I was looking at it, I was like, man, that wall is high as hell. It's like if something goes wrong, you fall, you're done. I was like, okay, right. Devin's like, all right, we're right at the top. And all of a sudden, one of the drones wake up. I was like, oh, man, this is bad. It's bad. Okay, keep flying. Pretend like you don't. I was like, what is it going to do? I was in my mind, I was like, it's going to go back and attack Santa Monica for whatever reason. I was like, oh, man, they got a Santa Monica just in time or something. But it turns around and obliterates the 2 people below. They splatter into blood onto the wall. It's like, oh, my God. And Devin's like, come on. And then, boom, Devin gets that. Did not see that coming. I was like, what the hell? I thought Devin was main character status. It's like, you're good. You ain't got to work. Oh, you're dead? 3rd episode. This is technically your 2nd episode because the 1st episode takes place in the past, but it's like, you're dead? I thought you were going to stick around. It's like, I was so sure of it. And it's like, nope, she's gone. That messed with me hard. I was like, dude, and especially because her blood splattered on Will, and Charles was like, dude, and it's like, Will's about to get it next. I was like, please tell me that like this is a messed up dream that they didn't actually leave yet, and this is that whole conversation. But it's like, nah, man, Devin's dead. And it's like, before it can strike them, the drone stops. So it's like, wait, what's up with that? Is it because of Will's position, because it recognized him immediately? Or is it because like Will has some special importance to them or something? Because remember, they have like all the information they needed about everyone in the world. So maybe they know exactly who Will is, what he's capable of, and everything, his past and everything. So they're like, all right, because they have everything, a whole bunch of information on him up till the arrival. I'm sure, him being a collaborator and everything, they probably, working with Homeland, that they probably have information on him now, but maybe that plays a part in it because he works with Homeland, or maybe it's because of his password that they feel like he's someone they can use. Nevertheless, whatever the case may be, Jerome let him and Charlie go. Lucky for them. Not so lucky for Devin and those other two people. Man, that sucked. I was just like, dude, because it's like, I don't know, it didn't seem like a situation where they want to kill Devin off, like, especially because I threw out the possibility that, like, oh, Devin's going to betray him in the future. It's like, well, don't even have to worry about that storyline being a possibility. That sucked. I was thinking, like, yo, maybe she comes back with him and starts working with Homeland Security. Maybe I was thinking something like that, be his new beau, even though, like I brought up before, I think Jennifer's going to be his new beau. I don't think the actor who plays Bo is going to be coming back just because he was in something too. I remember that whole situation when they were like introducing actors from like, oh, the first season when the show was first starting and they were showing like previews of it and everything. The actor who plays Bo, he was in something prominent and I can't remember what it was exactly. He's like most best known for it. Sometime I have to look up, but he's going to be on a new show, called Doubt. I don't know how big of a role he's going to have in it or not. So, but I mean, maybe he will pop up in Colony, but if he does, it'll probably be like a minor thing. I mean, like I said, once again, production schedule, so it really comes down to that. But it does seem like at the very end of the episode, Charlie and Will have come back home just as Katie was about to like take Grace to the green zone and turn herself in. Now this changes so much going forward because it's like Will's back, so that means he's going to return to his position as the head of that whole situation. Then also finding out about what happened to Bram, so he's going to try and use his influence to get Bram out. Plus the whole situation with Jennifer and Katie, like, you know, it's probably going to be a situation where it's like, you know, Will be like, oh, I know you were talking to my wife. It's like, but you didn't turn her in, so thank you. You know, maybe Jennifer's about to turn her in when Will comes back. And there's so many. I'm like very interested to see what it goes because Will might have to fight for his position back. You know, he might not have as much clout as he had before because it's like, oh, that particular department is like under a lot of flack because it's like, oh, under your supervision of Homeland Security here is like a lot of stuff happening. Where's La Garza at too? Now that I think about it, I haven't seen him so far this season. Like the main dude that kind of served under Snyder. I mean, maybe he'll pop up later, or maybe that particular actor is not part of the show anymore. Whatever the case may be. Very interesting. Like I'm surprised. Also, we have not seen hide nor hair of Bessard. I'm guessing he's kind of like the new Quail. Like he's permanently taken over the position of this new. I also wonder what that means now that the bee's been found out too, so they won't be able to get as much information as they. I mean, because one of the biggest sources for information was that bee, as well as, you know, Katie. But obviously, there was a whole situation where Quill was like, "Oh, Katie's actually playing both sides, trying to. She's actually a double agent working for Will, essentially. You know, that being the whole story from season 1 and everything. So, very interested to see how that goes forward. Because there was a slight conversation that came up between Devin and Will, obviously way before Devin got brutally murdered. That's what messes with me too. It was a pop. Like, because season 1, they use lasers. Obviously, they shoot you with a laser, like, but they exploded. That's what really gets me about it. I was just like, oh my God. But nevertheless, like, the conversation was like, Will was like, basically going forward, like, you know, ends up telling Devin about the whole Katie situation. Like I said, that conversation led to me like, oh yeah, Devin's going to be around a while because she knows the truth and everything now. But nevertheless, it was kind of like, I bet you in retrospect, it's kind of sad. It makes Devin probably would have been better off if she had stayed, but she wanted to go too because it was like, there was no, didn't want to be part of that, you know, get back to at least a good place, get into Los Angeles, even if it's within the colony and everything. She felt like she'd probably be better off. But it's like, would have definitely been better off if she had stayed. So. But the point I'm getting to is the conversation, like Will being like, it was mainly because Katie, you know, lied to him and everything, you know. But it's like, for him, it was always like getting his family back was like the only thing he felt like he could do. But now, with the whole situation, he's like, he doesn't know what to expect when he gets back over the wall. And Devin told him, it's like, your wife. I mean, it's a situation where Will kind of lost his way a little bit because he's like, I don't know where to go from here. My main goal has always been to get my family back together, and it's like that's the only thing I ever felt like I could do, and it's like what is waiting for. I mean, I'm very interested to see how this all plays out because that, you know, see how this whole situation goes. Bram, you know, what Will does about the circumstances that's popped up, and like I said, obviously the Resistance is kicking things up because I don't remember them ever hitting as hard as they did like that particular, like, in that particular way. Maybe there were moments like that. See, I well, no, because at the very beginning they kind of did a situation like that, but that was like, it seems like their tactics have changed, or maybe it's weird because it's like obviously their tactics have always been the same, but it's like if regular people are involved in something, they kind of tend to stay away. It's like if it's red hats, collaborators, sure, take them down, but it's like in a situation like that, it's like take down the collaborators and take down the place where like they could be welcomed in, but it's like no, they killed everyone that showed up to take that job, and it's like holy crap, that's brutal. So it's kind of like no more messing around, essentially. I guess it's kind of like, you collaborate, you die. It's the message they're trying to get across. So it's kind of like we have to come together and fight. So it's going to be interesting going forward, seeing how they are. Like I said, I don't remember them being as brutal. Like I said, with the exception of the whole bombing at the beginning of season 1. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know. That seemed like, obviously that was kind of a blow mainly again. For them, it's probably a situation where, like, if some innocent people get caught up in the crosshairs, that's kind of like there has to be sacrifices in the wars. Kind of have that mentality. That's typically how things like of that nature kind of go. So, but very good episode. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.